Order now. Senator Collins, you may sit down. Let us continue discussion on the anti-discrimination bill now before the Senate.
Chairman?
Yes, you may finish. Then we'll hear from Senators Walker, Whaley, and Scott.
I just wanted to add that it would appear the House, since it did not hold much debate, hardly considered the impact of the bill. Even bills with the best of intentions sometimes disguise detriments. Therefore, we should not be too hasty to pass any bill, regardless of its humanistic appeal.
I have mixed feelings about the proposed legislation, since I believe the Constitution of the United States makes it very clear that life, liberty, and justice are for all. And that includes the natives of this land, just as the Indians of the lower states and territories are included. However, we have documented reports that demonstrate over and over the cases of differential treatment. Natives do not sit with whites. Services are denied. Restrooms are segregated.
Would you rather aggravate the situation by forcing them together?
Let the gentleman conclude his statement.
I am saying I think there may be a need for such legislation, and that is what I have to say.
All right, Mr. Whaley, you may proceed.
I'm a bush pilot, and I get around to many of the communities, some of them quite remote, I might add. This bill here could be easily misunderstood. Why, it proposes to fine a person if they don't comply. And for what good reason? To bring together two races into one society? We are not of the same society any more than we are with the Japanese. Mixing whites and natives is like mixing oil and water, and like such can only break down the fine-tuned engine of our democracy. Let's not forget that we are at war and should be putting our energies to supporting our country, not burdening it with frivolous legislation.
This is my country. I fought for my country. Your wars. This is the land of the Taku. My ancestors. Mine.
Order! Take that man out. Sergeant at Arms, order, please. No more outbursts, please.
Precisely. See, far from being brought together, which will result from this bill, the races should be kept further apart. Who are these people barely out of savagery who want to associate with us whites with 5,000 years of recorded civilization behind us?
Order, I say.
Here! Let's not be fooled. This bill is nothing more than a lawyer's dream and unnatural in creating hard feelings between whites and natives. It is the lawyers who stand to gain from the constant litigation that is sure to result if this bill is passed. This bill can only accomplish the opposite results, the furtherance of differences between the two races. It would be better to let things happen more naturally and not force the issue with this naive piece of legislation. Overall, natives function better when left on their own. They are happy in their villages. Let them be. And let us have our recreation and activities to ourselves. After all, it is a free country. I'm not opposed to doing away with discrimination where it truly exists. But this bill, well, it will only end up forcing law-abiding whites to live with, work with, and sit with natives. And in their own businesses and establishments. Well, I, for one, do not wish to sit next to an Eskimo in a theater. Truth is, they smell.
This is outrageous! I find these remarks deplorable and insulting!
Mr. Cochran, Mr. Walker, please sit down. We seem to have quite a few people left who wish to speak. Perhaps we could keep our comments a little shorter. Senator Scott.
In the best interest of our region, I concur with Senator Collins, and I oppose passage of this bill. Not all natives wish to associate with whites, this is certainly true. But it is the mixed breeds who are the source of trouble here. It is they only who wish to associate with the whites. It would have been better had the Eskimos put up signs. No whites allowed. This issue is simply an effort to create political capital for some legislators. Certainly white women have done their part in keeping the races distinct. If white men had done as well, there would be no racial feeling in Alaska. As representatives of regions heavily populated with Eskimos, we can speak comfortably about them. Like Senator Collins, I believe in racial pride, and I do not think this bill will do other than arouse bitterness.
Mr. Chairman, The natives are people who have been terribly treated by our society. We would be amiss in our duties as representatives of the people to assert that discrimination does not exist against native people. We have white sections that natives cannot sit in. Recently, a woman in Nome was thrown out of a theater for it.
Well, we should prohibit the sale of liquor to these natives. That's the real root of our problem.
Yes. We have testimony already on record from the church that demonstrates how it would really be impossible for natives to be equal, no matter how anyone wanted that. It's as the senator from Juneau said, they really are centuries behind us.
I believe, as Mr. Paratovich stated so eloquently, only Indians can know how it feels to be discriminated against. Perhaps we should hear additional testimony.
Hogwash!
That will be enough, Senator. It is a right for those of the public and in the gallery to speak. We shall take additional comment.
I'll not listen to any more of these exaggerated circumstances.
Now, was there anyone else from the gallery who wished to speak on the bill before us? We acknowledge Mrs. Roy Paratrovich of the Alaska Native Sisterhood on the floor.
I would not have expected that I, who am barely out of savagery, would have to remind gentlemen with 5,000 years of recorded civilization behind them of our Bill of Rights. When my husband and I moved to Juneau, we sought a home in a nice neighborhood where our children could play happily with our neighbors' children, and we found such a house and had arranged to lease it. But when the owners learned that we were Indian, they said no. Would we be compelled to live in the slums? Even now, doors to many of the schools are closed to our children. Signs make it quite clear that I, as well as dogs, are not allowed. And many of the hotels and restaurants still turn us away. Well, discrimination occurs in many ways, let me assure you. There are 3 kinds of persons who practice discrimination. First, the politician, who likes to maintain an inferior minority group so that he can always promise them something. And second, well, the Mr. and Mrs. Jones, who aren't quite sure of their social position and so are kind to you on one occasion and can't see you on the next, depending on who they are with. And third, the great Superman, who believes in the superiority of the white race. Well, it is this kind of perpetuated thought that serves to segregate and discriminate, and it has forced the finest of our people to associate with white trash. And in answer to Senator Shattuck's earlier question, do we believe that the passage of this bill will eliminate discrimination? Well, have you eliminated larceny or murder by passing a law against it? Do these laws prevent those crimes? No law will eliminate crimes, but at least you as legislators could assert to the world that you recognize the evil of this present situation and speak your intent to help us overcome discrimination for all Alaskans. Elizabeth's impeccable presentation stunned some of the senators, and an awesome silence fell upon the room. The weight of her words, however, ignited the packed gallery, and the crowd burst into thunderous applause. Her convincing and impassioned testimony was quickly followed by a vote in favor of the proposed Civil Rights Bill, the first anti-discrimination act of its kind in the entire United States. Out of 16 senators, 5 voted against the bill and 11 voted for it. Elizabeth and Roy Peratrovich, attorney William Paul Sr., Alaska's first native legislator, and Governor Ernest Greening, amongst many other dedicated individuals, fought in the same dignified spirit as the original Alaska Native Brotherhood for equal treatment, just land claims, and better social and living conditions in Alaska. Elizabeth Peratovich's willingness to accept a role as spokesperson during this landmark legislative hearing in 1945 ultimately affected the fate of all Alaskans. In 1988, in recognition of such noble efforts, Governor Steve Cooper signed a bill passed by the Alaska State Legislature designating February 16th as Elizabeth Peratovich Day. This is our day to celebrate Alaska's dedication to equality and justice.